Gordon Smith, Alistair Murray from opposite corners of the world. Chris Exley in Massachusetts here in the States. From frigid and sunny, he says, north of Boston and Salem. Welcome everybody to our show, number 789. 789, Julia, there's something significant about that, isn't there?
There is.
789.
Gotta be.
Friday the 6th, we have three esteemed guests on, also from opposite sides of the world. We'll introduce you to them in a moment. Greg Phillips on the Gold Coast of Oz. Joe Holtzman recovering from his knee surgery up in beautiful Estes Park, Colorado. Clayton Embley, greetings to all the foesy. A chilly Bermuda, says Andy Cox. Christopher Gillingham and Jane in Leamington. Fritz Mueller in Miami. Fritz, thank you for the contribution to Sailing Illustrated as we get this one across the starting line. Welcome. Welcome to Studio B here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Bannerow says, Rick says he's on a train on the Connecticut, what they used to call it, Connecticut General. Sangmeister grew up in that part of the world. I'll ask him when he comes on. Sending best wishes from Cows, Magnus Wheatley is saying. Metro North train, that commuter train in Connecticut. Julia, I trust you are well?
I am.
Any hot tips?
It's actually warm and sunny here today.
Well, it's our summertime. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Tom, along with Julia. We've got a great one for you today. We're very proud and pleased to have this show, and thanks, and these guests that are joining us for this show. But thanks for the many calls. In fact, you distracted me from preparing today's show. There were so many calls and texts and so on about yesterday's magnitude 7 earthquake that struck off California's coast, just north of us. How far north is that, Julie? Up near Eureka?
About 120 miles.
120 miles. And it did briefly trigger a tsunami warning for parts of California and Oregon.
A real one, too.
A real, well, there wasn't much of a tsunami, but...
No, but the warning was real for the first time.
Well, was it real? Nothing happened. It was fake news, as Mr. Trump would say, Julia. That, it did... at least in Hobie's Market, see how I worked sailing into that? I found a market that had not exactly the way Hobie Alter spelled his name. It was Hobie, the Hobie's Market in Delhi, and I've never heard of Scotia, California.
Oh,
you,
sure
Julia?
you have.
No,
Yeah.
Where is it?
Yeah.
Where is it, Julia?
It's near Humboldt.
Humboldt, up in Humboldt
Yeah.
County. Well, it's a mess, or it was yesterday. Then, of course, when they told us that there was going to be a tsunami, what did everybody do? Did they go to seek higher ground? No.
No, they went straight to the ocean.
They went straight to the ocean, up and down the coast to watch for the waves to come in. And Julia, I don't know. I went upstairs to check on you.
Yeah.
And see what the plan was, because you have that boat that's you and your late husband has up in the rafters of the garage that's been there since, it hadn't been touched since 1984.
I know, but it's there for a purpose.
40 years ago. And I couldn't get it down if I had to, and you couldn't get into it if you had to.
But the problem is it's a wooden boat. And
It's not. I checked it. It's glass.
Is it?
It's glass. You told me that before it was wooden. It's glass.
Oh.
In any event, we weren't going to get that out of the garage. We were going to go up on the roof and I'd wave a white flag. But this is what everybody did. They went to the coast, and I decided what I was going to do was go to St. Francis Yacht Club. And just as I literally was throwing my clothes on, I prepare the show in a bathrobe and my LL Bean slippers to keep my feet warm. And I was just about to go over to St. Francis when we got the all clear. And
Yeah.
that's what the webcam at St. Francis at noon on Thursday looked like when the tsunami was supposed to hit, Julia.
I know.
Oh, man.
Well, I'm glad it didn't.
Well, you and me both, but it was fake news. I don't know what else to say. It was fake news. So here we go. We have some cool people on. First time since the watch parties for the America's Cup, Julia, that we have had Zoomers on, and more than one. And the first one, of course, is Andrew Pindar. Delighted to have Andrew back on the show. He's been a super foes. He's been on the show, I don't know, half dozen, maybe a dozen times. Clark Chapin will have to tell us, holding the back of the bid quick sign that was made sometime in the last couple of years when we were all pushing hard to get the Paralympic Games. The sailing back in the Paralympic Games.
Yeah.
Hasn't been too successful, but Andrew has been pushing that. He is a spark plug in our sport, and delighted to have him on. He's going to tell us about a new sponsorship involving the World Match Racing Tour, as is John Sangmeister.
Yes.
Interesting news. And speaking of the tour, we have the tour's esteemed executive director with us, James Pleasance. He's joining also by Zoom, and it's really a delight to have him back because he is a fountain of information.
He is.
A literal, veritable fountain of information. Then we also have John Sangmeister with us. There's John with his son Peter on board one of his I don't know if it's the old Maxi or the new Maxi. That's OEX, which was the old one, and the new one is called Rock and Roll.
Ta-da!
And John Sangmeister is joining us from down in SoCal in Long Beach. And Ian Williams, who is the defending WMRT champ, World Match Racing Tour champ. He won in Shenzhen last year, December 2023. He is asleep, we think, in his hotel room. We're really not expecting him to come on, but if he does, it will be an added delight and treat to have Ian with us as well. With that, let me invite the gentlemen in. And joining us from respectively Scarborough in the upper left corner, Andrew Pindar, John Sangmeister in the upper right corner down in Long Beach, California, and in Shenzhen himself. I have his lower third saying Hong Kong, but he's actually in Shenzhen in China. WMRT Executive Director James Pleasance. Gentlemen, welcome to all of you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
I think it's wonderful to have all three of you together.
You do?
Yes.
Why do you think that's so cool?
Because A, they're cool, and B, it's truly international.
You've always had a thing for Sangmeister, and then British boys and Aussie boys and Kiwi boys.
I'm allowed.
You're insufferable, Julia.
Oh, yes.
Huh?
Of course.
You're insufferable. Now, I'm sorry Ian's not here because I know you got a warm spot in your heart for him as well. Gentlemen, we welcome you on the show as co-hosts. Thank you for joining us, and I don't know how long you can stay, each of you, but it's a delight to have you all on. We are going to talk, obviously, about the WMRT and about the World Tour Championship, the finals that's going on in Shenzhen, China, next week. But we're also going to really give you the proverbial mic or mics and just carry on about all manner of the sport. We saw Kutz's article about how sailing ought to be up against the shore and much more fan-friendly, and that's something we should probably cover. Right, John?
Absolutely.
But before we get into all of that and much more, what are we celebrating today? Julia, there's your one and only clue.
Oh, gosh. The flag is from...
Notice I took the Jeopardy music out because I got a copyright strike. I told you I would.
I know.
That was Stingray's idea, his big idea. We are celebrating Finland. And it's a great yachting nation, a great Nordic nation. Finland Independence Day, December 6th, 2024. Now, is it cool? Yes, it is, especially apropos what's going on with Russia and the fear of Russia in Central, East, and Western Europe. In 1917, because of the defeats faced in World War, in fact, I had there it is, a previous slide. Let me go to this. There it is. From around the 12th century to 1809, Finland was part of Sweden, as probably most of you know. However, since Sweden was weak after the war with Napoleon, it was unable to defend Finland, and the Russians saw this as the perfect opportunity to take control of the country.
Aha.
The fight for freedom against Russia began from the moment they took over in 1809. During the Russian rule, intense efforts were also made to modify the culture of Finland, known as the Russification of Finland. These efforts received severe backlash from the proud Finns. It also made the Finns realize that having their own separate country was the only option left for their survival, and they began to work towards attaining their independence from Russia. In 1856, the Fennoman movement was launched, and the use of Finnish as the national language was promoted. The idea behind, Finnish, you know what the most closely related language to Finnish is?
Mm-hmm.
What?
It's, and
Do any of you gentlemen know?
Well, they say Hungarian, don't they?
Yes, they do, and it is. It's true. Having had a Finnish driver, we had Mika Hakkinen on the McLaren team when I was with that team, and Mika and the Hungarian Grand Prix. He was amazing, and he could talk to the Hungarians. It was not the same.
Yep.
But it's not quite the same as British English and American English, two nations separated by a common language.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But anyway, back to Finland. It is very similar, and we got to give the first gong to Andrew Pindar for knowing that.
Indeed.
In 1856, 100 years before the Finn sailboat was developed and put into the Olympics, this Fennoman movement started promoting the language. The idea behind this movement was to ensure that the national identity of the Finns was not lost and their interests were brought to the forefront. And then there's more. Because in 1917, because of the defeats faced after World War I and the Russian Revolution, the Tsar nation had become weak. Seeing this as an opportunity, the Finns pushed for independence and created a Declaration of Independence on today,
December 4th.
December 4th, 1917. And of course, today is the 6th, but they declared on the 4th. The Finnish parliament officially promoted and adopted the declaration on December 6th, rather faster than our declaration was adopted.
Mm-hmm.
From then on, recognizing that day as the Independence Day of Finland. And now you know, Julia.
I'm a great admirer of that, and
You and your late husband spent some time there.
absolutely. And the Swan yachts were born there.
Swan yachts, indeed, still born there. Gentlemen, your connections to Finland, if any?
Well, the Nokia phones, which no longer exist, of course, but that was where the Nokia phone was created and built by the millions. I used to buy a lot of paper from Finland when I was a printer. So I've been to Finland many, many times. A marvelous country, a great place to go and have a smoke sauna. And you can have the traditional sauna, which is a smoke sauna, or you can have the modern version of it. And there's nothing quite like going for a midnight swim when you've been in and out of the sauna, and they call the water you put onto the coals lolly. So that's and you can get if you put beer onto the coals, you get all the hops and the malts, and just absolutely beautiful.
Yes.
Well, that'll show you right up. Either way, James, do you have a connection to Finland at all?
No, I've never been. But years ago, working with a different agency, we did a lot of events with Nautor Swan yachts that were obviously built in Finland, and but I never actually went. But we have a Finnish umpire this week in Shenzhen, Juuso Levonen. I hope I got his right, Levonen, who's done a lot of tour events, and with any luck, he's on a plane from somewhere in Helsinki on his way down here. So that's as much as I can give you. We've had a few Finnish teams on the tour over the year, none this week, but we got an umpire. So that's my flag wave for Finland this week.
Nice.
I'm a great fan.
Excuse me, Julie, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I'm a great fan of Finland.
We can tell.
Yeah.
John?
Microphone's off, John.
I've raced in Sweden and Norway, but I've never been to Finland.
Great technology company. Where is this gentleman who has the yachts called Rand? Where is he from?
It's Swedish, isn't he?
Sweden.
He's Swedish. Not Finnish. Skype?
Mm-hmm.
Skype.
I thought that was a Finnish company originally. No? Okay. we'll move on before I embarrass myself. Before I embarrass myself further.
The important thing is to know how to say cheers in any language. You know how to say cheers in Finnish, Tom?
Tak.
Which is
Skål.
you go.
Skål.
No, you go. No, it's kippis.
Kippits.
Kippis, which of course the Brits then say it as keep pissed. One way of looking at it. But then the colloquial way of saying it is to say hooligan gooligan. So that's the other way to say cheers.
Oh, you learn something new on Sailing Illustrated.
Oh, yes, every day. Yes.
We got a bunch of other people joining us. Fozy from around the world. Magnus, the Magnificent, sending best wishes from cows. I think I mentioned him. Jonathan Frank is on the road. He's passing by us on the highway about as we speak. We're going to feature him in a moment. Mary Jude, MJ Szymanski in Philly and Philadelphia. Graham Sweeney in Shetland. Claire Harrington is at 37 West 44th Street in New York. We're going to feature something from there. She doesn't know I have that photo. Hey, from Lago Vista, Alan Long, Gordon Smith, 789 is an odd composite number composed of two prime numbers multiplied together. 3 by 263. Who would have known what you'd learn here? Thank you, Gordon. Stingray Tom called to assure me that, yes, he had a spare pair of pants handy for in case the tsunami caused a big splash. Surf's up, then they canceled it. That's right, Alan Long. That's exact. Chris Fury's in Melbourne. Hello to you and Tsunami watching a real Darwin activity. Sean Hogan's in Melbourne. John Emmett, of course, we have his report. He's down home on the farm. And John Emmett's wife, we understand Lily is there. We're going to see what she is going to do with James Pleasance at that regatta. And
Claire Harrington.
Claire Harrington is on. Yes, she's at 44th Street. And John Emmett did some coaching with Finland. Yeah, everybody knew it was the Finnish independent. All the Europeans did anyway. Man, there's a lot of comments. Mark Holland, watch out for fins in the water. F-I-N-S. Nokia used to, Gordon Smith, Nokia used to make rubber boats. Rubber-coated wire and condoms. What? Oh, my goodness. This is JBL. There's John Lambert, JLB, John Lambert's Van Buren. One of the finest clubhouses in Europe is that of the NJK, the Royal Finnish Yacht Club. Mm-hmm. Their house was designed by the naval architect Gustav Estlander. Nice, John. Mm-hmm. Finns in Finland are wonderful. Gordon Smith agrees.
And A Midsummer Night is not to be missed.
Well, and that's true all over Scandinavia. I can say that as a Norwegian. Skype is from Estonia, Fritz Mueller is saying. Thanks again, Fritz, for your contribution as a Fozy. And while we're on it, just want to say we're also celebrating, as always, the Fozy who helped keep us on the air through Patreon.com, not Skype, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Thank you very much for your support. Much appreciated. Join us if you would. And we're also celebrating the Fozy because the Fozy are really for whom and with whom we do the show. All of you, including our three esteemed guests today, make this possible. The contributions from around the world. And let's cover a few of them in a Fozy focus today. Cool people we like to celebrate. First one, Clayton Allen Embley, and I think his daughter's name is Ashley, Julia.
I don't know.
And Clayton has sent us yet again another contribution to the bar here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. Look at that. We've got root beer, Freddy's root beer for me. We got barbecue sauce from Savannah. That is, I don't know if the gentlemen know anything about Savannah where the 96 Olympics took place, or John, maybe Sangmeister as a restaurateur knows about this barbecue sauce. Johnny Harris. John, do you know about that barbecue sauce?
I'm afraid I don't. Sounds delicious, though.
It is. I have tasted it. It's hot. It is hot, John, and we got to check that out. That's been sent by Clayton and also Julia.
Yes.
Your favorite bourbon cream.
Bourbon cream.
And as some of you will have seen, I moved the croutonnic corner to the off the corner because I just simply need more space here. And I have put on the back table the Croutonic Corner, and more. So that whole top level, including some bourbon cream, Julia, for your coffee.
Uh-oh.
They call this Cafe Julia. Clayton Emily tells me that's what it is now called.
Yes.
I'm pouring it here. I should be pouring it on camera too, but you can see in the back behind me there, the new Croutonic Corner, courtesy of Peter Stevenson. Cheers, Julia.
Cheers.
Cafe Julia. I think we just keep that here on the back so that you can have some when and if you need that. That is the bar here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, our latest acquisitions, courtesy of Clayton Embley. Now, did you ever belly up to the bar, Julia, at the New York Yacht Club?
Yes.
This is brand new. Some people think it is a disgrace. John, have you seen the new bar at your club? You're a proud member of New York.
41 years in, I haven't. It looks spectacular.
Well, some people really like it, and some people think it's croutonic. It's rounded, as you know. The old one was flat, was
Straight.
rectangular, straight. And the bar used to be on the south side of the room, and years ago, they moved it to the north side, which is where this bar is. And now they have replaced it with this very elegant and beautiful curved bar. You like it? You like it, Julia?
It's beautiful.
I do. But it isn't as gemütlich.
Gemütlich, a good German word.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other gentlemen think, but if anybody wants to weigh in, don't hesitate. That's the new bar at the New York Yacht Club on West 44th Street in Manhattan, and that photo was sent by an anonymous source. You can't be taking pictures inside of New York and sending them to media. So it's not... I won't say who it is. Speaking of New York Yacht Club members, and it was not Stephen Suchia who sent this. Stephen is a member of New York. He's head of the selection committee of the America's Cup Hall of Fame. Before I go to that, I think Andrew wanted to weigh in.
I was just thinking that if John would just kindly just whisper to me his membership number, I can go and avail myself of the new bar at 44th Street.
Andrew, I'd be delighted. I'd be delighted.
Okay. And mine's really easy to remember, too, at St. Francis, but I don't want to tell anybody because it is so easy to remember. Back to Stephen. Stephen Suchia has produced a new book, and he sent it to us. And here it is. The America's Cup Deed of Gift and Related Documents. Stephen's new book. And it really is spectacular. I've thumbed through it. It just came yesterday or the day before. And he goes through, and it's a picture, it's a coffee table book, but he goes through the first deed and goes through the second and third deeds and the history of this whole thing in this new book. I don't know where you can buy it, but you probably can buy it at the Haresoft Marine Museum, which, of course, is also the home to the America's Cup Hall of Fame. And Stephen, as I said, is the chair of the AC Hall of Fame Selection Committee. So bravo Zulu to him. It's a great book, very nicely done.
It's amazing that one sheet of paper could
spawn all this. 100 and what? Almost 70 years, more than.
Yeah.
Of yacht racing and books. And speaking of books, speaking of spawning, how about this one? This is Magnus the Magnificent on his book tour. He's been all over the place. The books are still, even though it came out in the middle of the summer, the Northern Hemisphere summer, it is selling like proverbial hotcakes.
Oh, good.
And also, by the way, he's back writing on the Rule 69 blog almost daily. I'm getting practically daily in my email his latest, and he's talked about the Opti Worlds, he's talking about the upcoming Moth Worlds, he's talked about the America's Cup, of course, and on and on and on. No doubt he'll do something about the Match Racing Tour, the World Match Racing Tour coming up. Magnus the Magnificent on the author and also the America's Cup flack, and now also on his book tour. He was at the new, have you been, Andrew, to the new RORC clubhouse?
No, not yet.
Apparently it is spectacular.
It doesn't need to be. It's cost the club quite a lot of money.
Well, and the other Andrew tells me it is spectacular, and you know who I'm talking about, of course.
Well, he's a very good judge of most things,
Yes,
so
yes.
I'll take his word.
Well, and Julia,
What?
we got to get over there and see that. That is the
Yes.
new clubhouse. Magnus gave a book report there the other night, and apparently they had a huge. I mean, it's just a fact. It's at Cowes. It's on the Isle of Wight. It's not to be confused with their clubhouse, the historic clubhouse there at the end of St. James's Place in London, in the West End. But just spectacular, apparently.
I want to go.
Andrew, sorry.
I want to go to afternoon tea and hear the piano.
Well, I'd rather go to dinner there and hear the piano, but Andrew McIrvin says it is indeed spectacular, as does Magnus the Magnificent, Magnus Wheatley, who last evening was at the Leamington Town Sailing Club with an equally esteemed photographer and author, Ben Woods. Now, how do we know this? Because our Fozy Alex Hayworth sent that photo. Don't go out in the town and expect to
Hide.
You can't hide from the Fozy, Julia.
I know.
Wherever in the world they are. And Magnus sent this. He says, "Hello, Tom. That is so kind of you." He knew I told him I was going to run this in the A block. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful evening at the Leamington Town Sailing Club. A really knowledgeable and lovely audience of truly great sailors. It was a very engaged audience, and I was really touched by some of the congratulatory comments that members said afterwards. A wonderful club that holds lots of great memories for myself when I used to live in Leamington in my teens.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I wonder what he did there in his teens. We also had one at the RORC last week, which had the likes of McIrvin, Corby, etc., and I had to be on my toes there with those guys.
Yes.
And coming up, he sent me those photos as well of the Rourke. Coming up, Royal Yacht Squadron, the Royal Southern, Cowes Corinthian, Royal Victoria, Braiding Haven, Feel Like a Traveling Salesman, or Rock Star I Wish.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben Wood, who's the guy sitting with him there at the table, he was the guy asking the questions. He was kind of interviewing, I guess. He helped me produce the book and is one of the world's top photogs. He does the Richard Mille Cup and classic racing. He was the one who whipped me into shape and kept me at the writing. Top man, great friend. He runs a famous company called Island Images, and everyone, literally everyone on the Isle of Wight has a Ben Wood sailing photo hanging in their house. Is that true, Andrew? Or is that Magnus being a little over the top?
Well, I have not been in every house, so I can't tell you.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Well, he also is now writing another book. His latest book, he's searching for a title. It's secret what the topic is, so I'm not going to reveal it here. But he is doing research today in the Royal Yacht Squadron Library on Cowes. I've been in the library. We took our black tie photos there when we were there for a cup event a few years back with the It's Okay group. And he is there researching my new book, he says. That's Magnus Wheatley. Thank you for those photos, Magnus. Congratulations, and keep it up. We appreciate your book and appreciate having it here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. And by the way, Julia.
Yes, sir.
I invited Magnus to come here and give a book report.
Oh, good.
And a presentation to the Beach Street Yacht Club. And we might also get him over across the block, couple blocks away to St. Francis Yacht Club, I would rather suspect.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Wouldn't that be nice?
It would.
He could stay upstairs in your guest room.
He could.
He wouldn't get any sleep. You two would be carrying on all night. I mean, with, you know.
I beg your pardon. Wait a minute.
Magnus the Magnificent. Now, we've also got another Fozy who is magnificent, a Renaissance man. This is his latest painting, the watercolor by Jonathan Frank, called Serenity. And as I said, he's driving past us as we speak, driving up the, is that the I-5 that goes up from, he's coming from Texas, so I don't know how far south he's been coming, but that painting, he says it's a watercolor, and the title of the painting is Serenity, driving my son up to Alameda, which is just across the bay, so he can be stationed on the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Stratton. His son, the recent grad of the Coast Guard Academy, will try to catch the show somewhere between Bakersfield and Stockton.
Okay.
The title of the painting came up from a photograph of an old schooner from the 1800s up in New England named Serenity. My God, this is an awful stretch of road from Barstow to Bakersfield.
Oh, yes, it is.
Have you driven it?
Oh, God, yes.
John Sangmeister, have you driven that often?
I don't know about Barstow to Bakersfield. That sounds like a pretty lonely highway.
I got to get the right lower third up here.
Yeah.
And turn them off when those guys go on. In any event, bravo zoo to him and to his kid Ryan, son Ryan. His first command was this yacht. I have no idea what this little dhow is with this square bow, and I've never seen one of those. Lateen rigged main sail. His first command taught the kid to sail when he was 9. Now he is a U.S. Coast Guard deck officer. Jonathan Frank's a very proud papa, and deservedly so. So bravo zoo, Jonathan. I hope you're watching. I hope you're not driving and watching. I hope you're driving and listening. Regardless, Jonathan Frank. And finally, Hamish Ross checks in. He is he's celebrating, Julia, his 60th birthday.
I know.
64th birthday.
I know.
When I'm 64, speaking of cows in the Isle of Wight,
Yes.
the Beatles song.
Will you still love me?
Will you still love me? When I'm 64.
64.
Bum, bum. So he's celebrating his birthday. He is coming on the show next Friday.
Oh, good.
We're going to talk about some interesting things. He has some inside hot tips about the America's Cup
Oh, good.
that he's going to share with us, and we're going to explore next Friday. Hamish Ross will be our guest. Let's get into the Vendée Globe. And again, if any of our gentlemen on the line want to check in, weigh in on any of this, please do. The race, as you all know, started over a month ago. It's the 10th edition, or nearly a month ago. This is day 26 of the Vendée Globe, and here is the photo of the day. This from Richard Gladwell, the Vendée Globe race, day 26. His writing is superb as well. It's better than what's coming off the website for Vendée Globe. Charlie Dallin is expected to have a big payday. He's way out in the lead, despite a second big storm coming. After sailing over 10,000 nautical miles and with more lead changes than the last America's Cup, the front runners are set to cash in their chips after the big strategic play around the Southern Ocean storm. Vendée Globe race leader Charlie Dallin, massive Santé Prévoyance, appears to bank a race lead of over 500 nautical miles over third place rival Johan Richomme on Patrick Artea. And help me out, Andrew, if I'm pronouncing any of these too badly. The race favorite has been able to stay with the intense low-pressure cell that has had a major effect on the race, more by navigational options chosen by the competitors 2 days ago than by the conditions themselves. Some went south, some went north, and that has played quite a deal here. Dallin has managed to get himself perfectly positioned on the upper right corner of the center of the low pressure and has moved with it over the last 12 hours, clocking up, get this, a 553 nautical mile daily run in 24 hours, 120 nautical miles further than Richomme, who decided to head north 3 days ago to stay out of the path of the low-pressure cell. That's Richard Gladwell writing in sail-world.com.
Yeah, the maps of those winds were just incredible.
Indeed. Coming up. Now, here is from Tip and Shaft, that terrific French newsletter, which came out, as it does every Friday, today, just before we went to air. And they've got some big seas down there, those that are in the Southern Ocean. About half the fleet now is past Ted Ryman and the Cape. This is the photo of the week by Sam Goodchild. Southern Ocean's atmosphere above vulnerable. Sam Goodchild's IMOCAS, who is in 7th place as of earlier today at least, in the Vendée Globe rankings. Entering the deep south since last Friday, the skippers, whether at the front or at the rear of the fleet, were treated this week to their first major southern low. There's some analysis in today's Tip and Shaft, which raised big seas with waves, according to some, up to 7 to 8 meters. Gentlemen, let's start with you, John. You're the big offshore sailor. What are you thinking? Did you ever aspire to do the Vendée?
No, I'm a team sport guy. I get bored with myself too quickly. So I think the psychological aspect of the race is really intriguing. The idea of going to sea for 40 to 90 days by yourself is extraordinary. I wish them all great safety, but I don't want to do that race. Thank you.
Andrew, James.
Yeah, I'm with you, John. I like to see land when I'm sailing, and I did sail across the Atlantic many years ago, and it was an incredible experience. And I swore never to do it again. But I can understand the sort of the lure of the ocean to these guys and women as well. Funny, I haven't been able to follow the tracker too much in the last few days. I think I've been more in the air than on the ground in the last few days. But I did notice that. I think the sort of top half of the fleet, there's 4 or 5 of the women skippers, and so I'm in real awe of what they do, and I wouldn't be doing it on my own. So my hats off to them. We were in Bermuda recently when we last spoke on the show, if you remember, which was sponsored by Aspen, who have also supported Pip Hare in the campaign. So I've been following her progress as well. So, fair winds to them. Rather than me as I sit here in a hotel room in China, but it's fun to follow, and I think the event does a great job with the tracker as well. I enjoy following it. So, creds to the organizers and the live shows. I think Dee's been doing some live commentaries, some shows which have been able to watch. So good coverage from them.
Good coverage.
Yeah,
Andrew,
from my perspective, well, because I struggle to sail across the South Bay in Scarborough, let alone around the world single-handed. But I'm proud to say that our Arctic Tern, our company logo, has been around in 2 previous Vendée Globes. It's been around already a total of 7 times, and it's accompanying 2 of the competitors in this race. So one of them is Conrad Coleman. And I'm keeping my powder dry to let you know in a couple of weeks' time on which other boat it's also hitched a ride.
Cool stuff. Okay, well, let's go to the comments here because Claire Harrington is going to address, speaking of the Scandinavians, the North American station of the Royal Scandinavian Yacht Club. And I'm not going to try to pronounce the Finnish club this evening at New York Yacht Club at 44th Street, which must be one of the reasons she is there. Baton Rouge saying there's lots of Christmas photos from the model room. I don't know if he means model room of New York or otherwise. John Emmett, Tula Tenkanen, laser radial, came 5th in the Olympics. Yeah, the Finns are a great sailing nation. They punch way above their weight. Jody Shields agrees. He says nothing better than a good finish. Oh, Jody. And lots of comments. Ted Ryman says Luxembourg-based Skype technology founded by Niklas Zenström of Sweden and Jonas Friis. I wonder if Gordon knows Jonas Friis is that how you pronounce that? Of Denmark. First introduced the software client in 2003. The number of registered users of Skype was about 50 million in 2005 and increased by more than tenfold to more than 600 million just 5 years later. And of course now most everybody uses Zoom. We're using Zoom today because it's easier for me with multiple guests. I prefer Skype, actually, because the technology, even though
quality's better,
even though Microsoft now owns them, and the technology from our end is better. Hello, in Annapolis, Denise Ross Peterson. We got to ask Denise what Jeffrey Peterson. I'll see Jeffrey in a couple weeks at the Christmas party for It's Okay down in Newport Beach. I see he is coming, so that'll be fun. Gordon Smith says nothing changes. Condoms, boobs, barbecue sauce, and saunas. The topics on today's show.
The booze.
Oh, my goodness. Look at all these comments. I can't possibly read all these. Nice bar, but are there coat hooks under the ledge as there should be? Steve Groover, is it not coat hooks? You leave those out in the cloak room out in the front at New York. You'd never take your coat into the bar, I don't think. Countertop at Stingray's local bar is mostly plywood. Ed Worley's asking, how do we get the book? I don't know, Ed, if Stephen is on here. If he is, I'll ask him to put something in the comments. But I do think you can get it at the Harrisoff Marine Museum. You can probably write to them or write to Stephen. He's around here, so you no doubt can.
He answers his mail.
He does answer his email. You can find him on Facebook. Mark Holland, there are only 100 printed. I have 1-2 available from here. Okay, there's only 100 printed, and Mark Holland has one, so that sounds like the right place to inquire, or at least probably more than inquire. Gordon Smith saying Steve Suchia is a wonderful coach, teacher, academic. Had a great chat with him. Yes, he is a bright guy and a Flying Scot sailor from down at Cowan Lake Sailing Association down near Cincinnati, as they say. Ohio. My gosh, there's a lot. Barstow to Bakersfield makes me think of an Eagles tune, Stingray is saying. Lots and lots of comedy. Yeah, Pip Hare reported a personal best of 39.7 knots here in the last little bit. I saw that as well. Thank you, Alan Long, for bringing that to our attention. And Phil Yeomans, hi Phil, nice to see you on. Dallin is skirting the ice line. Everyone else is well to the north, and it looks like he's going to make a big game because of that. Speaking of which, Emmett's saying there's a huge fire in Hong Kong today. Did you see anything about that, Julia?
No, just that comment.
J. Frederick Bland, James's boomer, as he's known, 8 meters is green water over the bridge sail of a nuke fast attack submarine.
Ooh.
Get your attention. Indeed it would. Great comments. Claire Harrington is chiming in, as did Mark Holland a moment ago, saying all the proceeds for Steve's book goes to the Harrisoff Museum in Bristol. You can buy them through the museum. I have one also. Wingrove's on in Florida. Have I missed anything? I see something about boobs from Graham. Julia, give him a finger wag. Let's go back to our other topic, which is the Vendée, and we've got the daily weather update. Here it is.
So still this fantastically exciting situation with this low pressure system for the leaders, in particular Charlie Dallin and Sebastian Simon. And we look at the animation, we can see that Charlie's still managing to hold off on the front edge of the low pressure system. Meantime, Sebastian Simon has dropped back and he's now coming into the stronger southwesterly winds and a much more agitated sea, up to 7 meters of waves at times. So, but in the meantime, it's all good for Charlie. He's managing to outpace the system and certainly hold his position on the leading edge of, or on the front of the low. Now, the key thing here is we see, because he's in the northwesterly breeze, he manages to come up and stay on the same jibe, whereas Sebastian Simon behind has to start making multiple jibes as he comes up. Approaching Cape Lewin probably on a Monday. In the meantime, behind we see that Tomariong and Charal have to converge back down to the southwest. They're into a little bit of a ridge, and then the boats behind Sam Goodchild and Yannick Bestaven compressing up quite nicely because they stayed with the breeze. So they say Charlie Dallin then probably looking at a record into Cape Lewin. This is a situation for the big picture generally. They say there's Charlie, Sebastian Simon, and the boats up in the north, Tomariong and Yannick and Yuan Richomme. And as I said, the boats up in the high pressure system there, Charal now getting stuck and having to come down. So that's the general situation, giving them a bit more of a view. In the meantime, looking at the situation for the boats who have just passed Cape of Good Hope, or just to the east of it. The key thing for them is positioning themselves in the stronger positive flow for the Cap Agulhas current. Now, at the moment, they've got quite strong winds, 40 to 45 knots, but as the breeze moves round to the southwest, they'll have a much better angle and will be able to go faster. So that's the situation this Friday.
Okay, thank you, Andy, for that. We appreciate it. Whoa, it's loud. My goodness, Julia.
Yeah.
So there is the latest on the weather. Pretty good analysis by Andy Robertson, and there are your leaders. You know, nothing much really has changed, and Justine Metro for James's edification, is in 10th place, as you can see. It's she is the top of, what are there, 9 women of the 40 sailors, skippers?
6.
How many?
6.
6? 6 women, thank you. Andrew. Boris Herman, who we've been following, is in 11th. And by the way, we go back to the slide. There now is the record. You can see they're still a little bit behind the 2016 record here set by Banque Populaire 8. How do you say his name, Andrew? Armel Leclerc?
Well, I think it's a Breton name, isn't it? Which means that nobody can pronounce it, even the French.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play this entire video, but this is the other daily update, and here's that video.
It's Friday, the 6th of December in the Vendée Globe, the skipper's 26th day at sea, and we have seen an absolute masterclass from Charlie Dallin, who has used this Indian Ocean depression to perfection. We take a look at the tracking currently and also the ranking, and also take a look at a visualization from our friends at Savvy Navi. And then Richard Gladwell has done some predict wind routing for a couple of boats to see what their options are coming up. We've also got an update from Nico Lundven on the water as to why he used that northern option. And so I'd also like to say a thank you to the 60-odd thousand people who've watched the last couple of updates, and we will continue to bring them every single day. The tracker at 0600 UTC shows us how Charlie Dallin has managed to use that breeze on the eastern side of the Indian Ocean.
Okay, this gets to be a bit of a repeat of what we've just seen, but it's interesting. These reports, I commend them to you. They're very, very good. They come out daily, as do the weather reports. And Andy is trading that off with, who's remind me, guys, who he's doing these weather reports. It doesn't matter. But they have been good. And here is the update, just so all of you can see who the top 5 are. Charlie, Sebastian Johann, Thomas, and Jeremy Bayou in 5th. Justine Metro is in 10th. Boris Herman is in 11th. Jean Lecam in 19th. And Conrad Coleman in 30th, as we said, out of the 40 yachts. And they are the ones we have been following. Okay, gentlemen, let's get to match racing, to the World Match Racing Tour, to what's going on in Shenzhen, China next week, where you are already. I guess, when did you fly in there, James?
I arrived yesterday, about last night China time, so 6 o'clock, and it's like 10 to 6 in the morning now, if you can work that one out.
Well, I'm glad I had in the lower third that you were in Shenzhen, or in Hong Kong, but you're actually in Shenzhen, which is good, because not that it would affect you in whatever hotel, but there's apparently a massive fire in a shipyard. The Hong Kong.
I was just reading about it. I think there's a shipyard. I know Ian and team are training in Hong Kong, so hopefully they haven't nothing to do with that. But there was it looks like a local shipyard. There was a fire in Hong Kong, but it's been put out from what I could read quickly.
Apparently it was difficult to put out, according to Lance Burke, a.k.a. Fog Machine, hard to put out because of fiberglass in the shipyard. Okay, well, I hope everybody is safe.
But no, arrived in Shenzhen. It's pretty good, actually. You fly into Hong Kong, and then there's a short ferry. It's about a 30-minute ferry that brings you to the mainland, and the ferry terminal is attached to the airport. So you get off the plane and get straight onto the ferry without passing immigration. You give your luggage tags to the ferry desk, and I don't know how they do it, but someone gets your bags off the belt and puts them on the ferry, and then when you arrive in Shenzhen, you pass immigration there, and your bags are waiting there. So it's quite efficient.
It's
nice. A bit like riding the Red Jet and Kaz, about a half an hour fast ferry. It's quite convenient. So I think most of our 12 teams competing this week arrive tomorrow, so they'll have a deluge of sailors arriving on the ferry.
It's a bit like us going in and out of Canada, isn't it, Julia? and John. You clear customs on this side of the border to go into Canada.
Right.
And you clear customs for the U.S. before you leave Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Canada. Okay, well, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about we have the winner. Ian Williams may or may not pop in, but we're going to celebrate his win last year and then him getting, with the help of a couple of the people on this show, getting him to Congressional Cup, even though Con Cup wasn't going to, the qualifications had already taken place. They'd already announced last year. This was in December last year. Mm-hmm. And Ian goes off and wins the Worlds and doesn't get an invite to Con Cup, but John Emmett and others jumped to the rescue and the cause. That's why we have Andrew Pindar, James Pleasance, and John Sangmeister on the show today. Before we get into that event coming up, the 2024 WMRT Tour Championship final in Shenzhen next week, let's ask, there's some breaking news. It's maybe about a month old now, but Andrew Pindar, you've got some news for us because you, Pindar, your logistics company, has teamed up, and I'm going to play the video, and then you can tell us about it on the other side. Pindar by Manuport, is that how you pronounce it? Logistics. Andrew.
Yeah, indeed, that is how you pronounce it. Yeah, two weeks ago today, we announced our new partnership with a different partner to deliver logistics for the world of sailing around the world. And I'm delighted to say that we've connected with a company based in Antwerp in Belgium. Antwerp is, for those that have been involved at all with shipping, will know it's what they call the break bulk capital of Europe. It's where when the yachts are moving in and other things are odd sizes and shapes, they almost always come through Antwerp. And so for us, we're on a mission that we've been growing since for the last 14 or 15 years to be the global #1 in moving yachts, and our partnership with Manuport, we know, is going to help us secure that position.
When you're moving yachts in and out of Antwerp, do you smuggle diamonds? Is that how you really make your money?
Yeah. Sorry, wasn't that obvious?
Well, congratulations, bravo Zulu, and tell us who these gentlemen are.
Yeah, well, this was at the Marine Equipment Trade Show the week before last in Amsterdam, and sitting with me there was Justo Gazabeles from Spain, who recently joined us. In the white shirt, there's Diogo Diniz from Portugal, me in the middle, and then we've got Ken Juris, who's the Chief Commercial Officer of Manuport, and then our main Jo van Dijk is the guy opposite to Diogo. So that was just 5 of, actually, I think there were about 12 of us from the various parts of the Pindar and Company business and the Pindar by Manuport Logistics at the show. If anybody on this call hasn't been to show hasn't been to Metz, then get yourself there. It's just absolutely fantastic. It's just where the world of sailing happens year in, year out. And we were there to launch our new business and to make connections, and connections we made aplenty.
And that has not only been going on for a long time, and I've been there a couple times, but also now the World Yacht Racing Forum is taking place. Will it take place there now every year?
The start of the week, and they've been doing it for a while, is there's a super yacht conference, and that continues. And then now the bookending the week is the Yacht Racing Forum. So an experiment this year for the first edition of it. I think they're committed to be there. The Yacht Racing Forum, I think, is committed to be there at least another 2 years, maybe another 3 years, and then see how it goes. I think it was, for me, I was trying to be in too many places at the same time. The flip of that is that if you're trying to get people to the Yacht Racing Forum and you have it only 2 weeks away in Europe, and you're trying to get people from the rest of the world, people have gone home by then. So what we're trying to do, I think, within the in and around the Marine Equipment Trade Show is to have the world of sailing come together at least once a year in a way that everybody can have efficient and very businesslike meetings.
Well, and you know that Alistair Murray talks about it often, as does Peter Harkin. They've all been on here. We've all been there. We've all talked at forums there. And it's only a matter of time, maybe before World Sailing, who's moving their annual meeting around the world, maybe they'll start going back to moving their spring meeting around the world and put their annual meeting there. And then you really, truly would have a world yacht racing conference or forum in one place, wouldn't you, Andrew?
Yeah, well, I'm in favor of that way of thinking. I think as we get more and more pressured for time, more and more pressured for having to reduce the amount of time we spend in aeroplanes, James, then it makes me think that there are other conferences we can hold in and around the Marine Equipment Trade Show. Certainly within the Magenta projects, we're thinking that at some point we're going to have a Women in Sailing a global conference. That would be very sensible to put alongside or immediately before or immediately after the Mets. So I think there's a lot of conversations of similar nature going on, people looking to see how we can drive some efficiency in the way that people meet up.
Well,
I should add, Andrew, I sadly wasn't able to make it to the forum this year, but as some of you might remember, I started the forum in 2008 in Monte Carlo for a few years before we moved it to Portugal and then to Gothenburg, and then now it has a home in Metz for a while. But some of the earlier conversations we had when we created the forum was, do we attach onto other events? And there was a lot of discussion at the time about tagging it onto the World Sailing Annual Conference. The issue being we never knew where the conference was going to be, so it was quite hard to plan things around a movable conference. And if you were trying to get a host to help, generally a host wants to do it for a couple of years, and so that's why we kept it separate. And like I said, we started in Monaco when we tagged it together with the Motorsports Business Forum, which was quite interesting. But it's interesting to see how it's developed. So I think the idea of attaching it to Metz, which we also talked about for many years, is probably a good one. I think people want to travel a bit less, and if you can kill 2 or 3 birds with one trip to a marine gathering, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, well, thank you for reminding me about 2008 and the Grimaldi Forum. I think that was a great launch of an event that you had there with the first World Yacht Racing Forum. I remember. I think
you were one of the first speakers too, Andrew. I think you did a.
People asleep then.
I've got a photograph of you phoning one of your teams somewhere, and I think wasn't one of your boats being held up somewhere.
No, it was. I'll tell you what it was. We phoned Brian Thompson, who was racing in the Vendée Globe at that time for us, and so we called him up. And in 2008, that was quite a groundbreaking thing. Of course, it's commonplace today with Starlink and everything else. But in 2008, we literally phoned him up on my mobile phone and put it to the microphone on the stage.
Remember well. It was good fun. It was good fun. So I think it's it's good. And then if you remember, in 2009, the next year, we started I started the Design and Technology Symposium, which would sit alongside the forum. Then we did an international paint conference, a yacht paint conference in the next year. And I think the idea of adding branches to the tree of bringing the industry together, because prior to the forum, the yachting industry had never really had a conference to discuss the business of racing. And I think the idea of a women's forum is great too. So good.
Okay, let's move on to, before we do Gladstones, I want to have John Sangmeister bring us up to date. He's got some exciting news as well, but there are lots and lots of comments flowing in here, no doubt because of our esteemed guests.
No question.
Right, Julia?
Absolutely.
It's not because of you and me. We're just a couple of croutons who are on here every Tuesday and Friday. Gordon Smith is saying, cool move by Andrew Pindar. Dan Jaspers, who, of course, is in the industry, in the business with RS Yachts. Big news for the world of marine logistics. John Emmett, yes, Metz is very cool. And with respect to our friends in the Antipodean friends and Southern Hemisphere friends like Ted Ryman, the nice thing about November and December in the Northern Hemisphere this time of year or earlier is that the yachting at least in our northern hemisphere, has cooled off, so to speak. Mets is incredible. Alan Long agrees. Alistair Murray, I went to 30 consecutive Mets shows.
Wow.
Dan Jasper saying more info on the Pindar and company organization, including the Manuport Logistics Partnership via the new website. Yeah, that's where I pulled that picture off. Claire Harrington, Vice Commodore Claire of the New York Yacht Club. The IYRF is planned to be coupled with Mets trade, yes, for the next few years. That's all good. And I think we all like it. Andrew couldn't import diamonds. He's never got deniers in. What's Graham Sweeney? What's that mean, Andrew? It's a joke.
De Beers is the diamond mine. It's just playing a word game with beer and diamonds. So it's a good thing that Graham would do.
Oh, De Beers. That's what it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Andy Cox, did the Arctic Tern become a part of the Pindar logo? Andrew.
My late father discovered the Arctic Tern when he was on a sailing holiday off the west coast of Scotland, and he spotted this beautiful bird, and he wants to know about it. And there was a bird book on the yacht, and he discovered it was an Arctic Tern, and he found that the Arctic Tern migrates further than any other creature on the planet, and goes pole to pole in its migration. That it's not the biggest bird, it's colorful, it's peaceable, but it fights like hell if its territory is threatened. And he thought that was a good simile for a metaphor for the business that we had together at the time. So we've adopted it, and it stays with us, and it flies around with us, and that's why, as I say, it's proudly gone around the world 7 times so far, and it's going around another, hopefully 8th and 9th time in the current Vendée Globe.
That's great.
Nice. Let's move on to John Sangmeister, who's also got some important business news. And these are great sponsors like Rolex in our sport, that is Pindar and Gladstone's. I'm talking about Gladstone's of Long Beach, where they serve seafood, American fare steaks. I mean, it's one of my favorite restaurants, and I'm not saying that just because John's such a good longtime friend, but it is a great restaurant that he of which he is the managing partner. John, come on in here and tell us why Gladstone's is such a good place to eat, especially Gladstone's Long Beach.
Tom, you're very generous. It's nice to be here, and it's nice to be in such august company. And Julia, we send love from Long Beach. Last month we celebrated 20 years, and we're very excited to announce that we have achieved a milestone in our development. We got an early Christmas present on Wednesday, 2.5 years late. It's taken us that long to get our building permits for our San Diego location. We hope to be open by summer of 25 at Seaport Village on the water. We're going to be taking over the existing Edgewater Grill, and we are looking forward to welcoming everyone to our new location and growing the brand.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in Seaport Village. Those of you who know San Diego well, it's right in the heart of downtown on the water. You can get there by boat from San Diego Yacht Club, which is over there on the left. San Diego Yacht Club's over here in the Sheller Island area, the airport here. It's an easy 10, 12 minute, unless there's rush hour traffic, 15-minute drive max over here to what will be the new San Diego Gladstone San Diego. That's an artist rendition, I trust, John.
It is indeed.
Coming soon, and you've been telling me it's coming soon for several years. When does it come?
I have dyed my hair gray in this process. I mean, it's to say that California is a little broken would be an understatement. I walked into the planning department last October to pay a fee, and there were 3 people there: the security guard, myself, and the cashier. And I got there at 7 a.m. This is the 4th restaurant we've built in San Diego, and normally it's an all-day affair, and there are 300 people waiting in the foyer, and you look on the wall and you've pulled number 276 and the counter's at 3. And I walked in and said I had to pay a fee, and he said, go see the cashier. And I walked up to the cashier, and he said, do you have an appointment? And I looked over either shoulder like, are you kidding me? Like, really? And he said, you'll have to wait. And that's the new California. I'm hopeful that we will get back to sanity soon. And I'm hoping that people will go back to work.
Well, at least they were at work. I mean, you know, the big discussion going on in Washington, D.C. about whether they're going to require the federal employees, most of whom now work from home and have since the pandemic.
Only 4%.
They come in one day a month, and they usually tie it so that they do back to back, and then they've got 58 days off. Yeah.
Now, John, I just flashed this picture up over Julia's shoulder because she, like me, is not amused about your band. You, of course, are very proud.
The greatest band in the history of mankind and the history of the universe.
It's
probably the only thing that the school can be truly proud of today, because their football season was such at best, lackluster.
No.
Well, that is they call themselves the Spirit of Troy, and they do call themselves what, John? The greatest band?
In the history of the universe.
The universe. Now, Julia and I would argue with that. Mm-hmm. We having been to different schools with support. Your band is Crutonic, Julia, let's face it. The Stanford band is more of a freak show. I mean, it's not a proper marching band.
Well,
at least John's band is a proper marching band.
Yeah. Stanford's sort of grown up in the last 5 years.
But
too.
the Michigan marching band, and with all due respects to Julie Aaron's Ohio State's marching band, those are proper marching bands, John, and they don't play their flight. They don't play their fight song after every play.
Actually, they do, Tom. You've just become inured to that, and you don't recognize it, but it's equally irritating to non-Michigan people.
It is awful. It is awful. And of course, your band has the Hollywood style and approach. It's very, very good indeed. And
who recorded with Fleetwood Mac, not the Michigan Wolverines?
You see, there's Graham Sweeney. Now, Graham knew that. He sang the Fleetwood Mac band. And Alan Long says exactly. And Fog Machine, a.k.a. Lance Burke, not as good as the Stanford band.
Go Fog Machine.
In any event, we had to make fun of your band for a moment. I don't know, John. You've obviously had them to Gladstone. That's just a photo in front of Long Beach, but I had to put that up there. So Bravo Zulu on San Diego.
That lobster looks so good right now.
Several other commenters said exactly the same thing. That lobster looks so good. Let's get on to sponsorship matters with Gladstone and Pindar. Emmett is saying, I would love it if the World Sailing Conference was tied in with Mets next year. Well, I think it'll be next year, John, because they've already got a venue planned for next year, but could be sooner than later. I want to go back to John Emmett for a moment. Fleetwood Mac Tusk, MacGruber. Is that the name of the album, John?
No, that's the song. Good God, where have you been for the last 30 years?
I'm a big Fleetwood Mac fan, but, you know, I lived in Europe for 20 years, and I lost touch with American popular culture.
Why don't you do the way we always do?
Okay.
Oh, we wouldn't want to do that.
It's a famous song.
Famous song.
I'm too old.
Bob Steele down in Newport Beach is saying maybe Sailing Illustrated Live for the grand opening, a FOSI opening at Gladstone, San Diego.
I'll buy you a Mai Tai, Bob.
You will? Do we know what? Yes, Andrew Pindar probably knows what the World Sailing venue is next year. That's a question from John Emmett. And
no, I don't. But I think over the last couple of years, actually, I found it harder to find out where the next conference is going to be. It seems to be increasingly last minute. I think perhaps it's part of the bidding process that they're obliged to go through. But it became a political hot potato. And, you know, it's the way to go that's convenient for people from different parts of the world to get to, what's affordable, where's a direct flight, all that sort of stuff.
They're still making fun of me in the comments about Tusk. Michigan's band is among the best. Thank you, Joe Holtzman, and so is Texas A&M. And yeah, we don't know where it's going. I do think I know. I'll tell you off the record, guys, where I think it's going to be. I haven't heard that officially from World Sailing, but I have, Andrew, I've heard that from, I think, the host of that. Julie Aarons is back on bands. I live in Ohio and not a Michigan, but Ohio State is not my alma mater, and I've really no allegiance to OSU. She's distancing herself from Ohio State. Now I got to ask everybody about this photo. You see, this is from a previous Sailing Illustrated show that was sent to me this morning by John. Ian's new Con Cup sponsor. When was this, John? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when you took up sponsorship of Ian Williams' team, aka Team Gladstones?
Well, first off, I want to say welcome back, Andrew. It's good to have you back in the game, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Long Beach. I sailed in 3 Congressional Cups in the previous century, and but I was a day tripper, and I missed the real magic of the Long Beach Yacht Club's Congressional Cup, which was hosting the teams in members' residences. And I think for now, probably 8 years, Ian and his team has stayed with us in various homes around the canals and whatnot. And we've become good friends. They've become extended family. And we were delighted to sort of step in the breach when things weren't working out, and in a very small way. And the good fortune was that the year he came in, he won. And I'm going to tell you a little story about Ian, because he really is a remarkable fellow, and it wasn't part of any agreement, but on the plaques on the trophy of the Congressional Cup, they have the winning skipper and the yacht club, and in the modern era they also name teams, and he put Team Gladstones Long Beach on the plaque. I was really touched. So we're delighted to be part of it. We're delighted to be here with Andrew, and we're wishing Team Ian Williams all the best in Shenzhen. We hope that you can repeat and bring home the trophy.
Well, let's hold the big announcement. Hold that off for, we see the shirts here. Let's hold it off for about 4 minutes, as I want to play the video from last year's World Match Racing Tour, at which Ian Williams and his team dominated. They were very, very strong indeed. They won their chance. He's won it. I don't know how many times. We'll have James tell us in a moment. Let's play this video, then come back for the big announcement. Last year,
the 2023 World Match Racing Tour Final in Shenzhen, China, reached the final day with just 4 teams left to battle for the $50,000 first place prize. 6 times tour champion Ian Williams from the UK chose to race against New Zealand's Megan Thompson, who was looking to become the first female skipper to ever win the title. That left a battle between 2 hugely experienced teams, Johnny Bernson from Sweden and Gavin Brady for USA, neither of whom have won the championship. With wind around 6 knots, the semifinals began with full intensity. The first 2 matches tied in the Williams-Thompson battle, but only after Thompson's crew hit the windward mark due to a lack of wind, thus incurring a penalty. But Gavin Brady and his team raced to a 2-0 lead and the brink of the finals. In this first to 3 wins contest, match 3 was pivotal. A collision on the finish line saw Thompson black flagged, handing the advantage to Williams. Meanwhile, Bernson clawed his way back to score his first point, thus both head into a 4th match. Despite Thompson's best efforts, the Williams juggernaut was unstoppable, securing the vital 3rd win, as did Gavin Brady, who left the Swedish team a long way behind.
Well, I've come second in the World Match Racing Tour twice back in the day, so it would be a little frustrating to come second again, but it's a privilege to be in the final, especially against someone like Ian. I think both teams have got nothing to lose. Hopefully we'll see some really good quality match racing.
We're racing Gavin Brady. He's one of the skippers who's even older than me. So hopefully we'll beat him with youthful exuberance and aggression.
That set up a tantalizing finale for the 2023 championship title. Ian Williams vying to become the first skipper to win the coveted trophy 7 times. The opening match saw a close start, but Brady read the shifts well on the 2nd lap to open a 40-second lead over Williams, and was able to cruise home without any pressure to put his mark on the scoreboard. In match 2, Williams fought back to level the score. And in match 3, Williams won a tight battle around the final windward mark to take the lead on 2 points. Meanwhile, in the petite final, Johnny Berntsen from Sweden finished 4th after another skilled display from New Zealand's Megan Thompson, who took 3rd place, becoming the first female skipper to ever make a podium position in the history of the match racing world tour.
The result's more than we could have hoped for, and yeah, so just happy to be here and yeah, finish the way we did. You know, you're always learning every event, and hopefully we can build upon this and come back to whatever's next stronger.
In the 4th match of the final, approaching the windward mark on the first lap, Williams read the shifts perfectly and crossed ahead, rounding with a 12-second lead. And, using their many years of collective knowledge and experience, the team held the lead with an almost perfect race, winning their 3rd race and securing the World Championship title. It was bittersweet for Brady after a long break away from the tour.
You don't get many chances to win a World Championship like this. You kind of feel, well, where can I take it from here? You know, can I keep doing this and have another shot at it, or say, hey, it was being fun? But couldn't have wished to sail against a better team in the final. Feel happy to be in the final, but you know, still a little disappointed.
Oh, it's fantastic. It's been a long time coming, actually. When was it? 2016 was the last world title for us, so we battled away. We've never stopped trying, and it's just fantastic with these guys to come here and win the 7th one.
A glittering awards ceremony was a fitting climax to the 2023 Match Racing World Tour. The prize money checks awarded to the top 3, and then another moment in history as Ian Williams is handed the World Championship trophy for a record 7th time. An incredible achievement, matching a superb first-time event at the Shenzhen Baoan Cup in China, which brings the 2023 World Match Racing Tour to a close in sensational style.
Okay, gentlemen, nice video. James, that's a production of yours, and you've got that same event for 2024, the final event of your season, the tour coming up in Shenzhen again. And Ian Williams, who is there, at least he's in Hong Kong, about to head to Shenzhen. There's some news, and I don't know if Andrew or John wants to lead off with the news. Oops, hang on. Let me turn your mics up here. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I like following John. I might be following him to have a lobster in his restaurant in April. But I'm delighted to announce that we've come in for the World Match Racing Tour finals in Shenzhen, along with John to sponsor Ian for this event. We decided it was appropriate. So I was thinking back to when I first met Ian in St. Moritz, and James actually invited me, probably 2004, 2005, something like that, I think it was, James. And that's where I was introduced to Ian Williams the first time. And we quickly came to a sponsorship agreement. He was unsponsored at the time. He just had Williams Racing, or I thought he must be sponsored by the Formula One team. Anyway, I sponsored Ian for, I think, about 16 years. That came to a halt in my relationship with my previous partners at GAC. That came to an end a couple of years ago, and that's when John was able to step in and support Ian for the Con Cup. And following John's lead, and then having seen Ian's input and very valuable input to the America's Cup for Ineos Britannia, where he was doing the start coaching for Ben and that great team. I realized that there's more than enough life in the old dog. And the thought of being able to bookend what my connection with Ian by stepping in again and getting involved with sponsoring him, I'd love to see if we can have our name attached to his 8th world title. So that's what we're going for. We'll have to see where it goes in 2025. Not quite sure that Ian really knows what events he's hoping to do on the tour next year. But let's take it one step at a time, and we're very excited to be able to proudly put our name alongside the greatest of all time, as Ian Williams is.
Bravo Zulu. And everybody in the comments is saying the same thing. Right. John?
I'm just happy to be the fifth Beatle here because I'm delighted to be in the company of this group. I'm proud to know and call Ian a dear friend. And Andrew, we met in Plymouth at an AC World Series years ago, and you were so generous and inspiring, and I've enjoyed our growing friendship. And I, too, echo your sentiment that we wish Ian and the team all the best in the upcoming championship.
James, how about a word from you about what his chances, that is Ian's chances, are, especially now that he's got a couple of, big-time sponsors?
Well, firstly, I think it's great news. So well done and congratulations. Thank you to you, gentlemen. I've got to know you both over my tenure in the tour, which is getting on for a few years now. Interestingly, we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the World Match Racing Tour next year, would you believe?
Wow.
Maybe we need to be doing a party in certain new restaurants, and so we'll discuss that one offline. But no, terrific news. I'm delighted that you gents are sort of, keep part of our tour family through the relationship with Ian. His chances this week, I don't want to tempt fate for him. I know they're training at the moment, I think, in Hong Kong. We have an interesting lineup this year. We're 12 teams, as we were last year, and you've got we've got a couple of interesting of the younger teams. I think Ian won't mind me putting him in the slightly older team sector of this year's lineup, alongside the likes of Eric Monin from Switzerland, Johnny Berntsen from Sweden, both long-time tour sailors. But we've got Cole Tapper, 21, 22 years old, just come back from Jeddah, where I was a few days ago, having just won the youth match racing world championships in the same boat. So, they've had a bit of practice in the last few weeks in these boats, and they're on their way to Shenzhen at the moment, together with three of the young French teams. And Nick Egnott Johnson out of New Zealand, also a former tour champion. So there's a fair bit of competition, and as you'll have seen from that video, however well it was edited, it is a light wind condition here, a very light wind venue here. It's it's right in the center of the city, which does attract the spectators and fans, to our sort of earlier comments around making it a fan-centric sport. The downside is it is like slightly light winds, but it is a real challenge for these teams, and Ian managed to do it so well last year. He's back with the same team, which I think is a huge advantage for him. So I think it's all, I hate to coin the phrase, but it is absolutely all to play for this week. So keep an eye. Sadly, we won't be having live television, but we'll be furnishing all of the other channels as much as we can starting on Monday.
12 teams. Are there any women skippers?
There are no women skippers this year, and that's not by my or anyone else's choice. As you know, with the tour, I don't decide who comes to the final. All of the teams here are here on their own merit, qualifying with their best 4 results from the tour events throughout the year. So Megan Thompson would have been one of the next skippers on the list to be invited. So she did not make the cut this year. She's actually in Jeddah right now, competing for the women's match racing world championship. So we've had three match racing worlds all within the space of 2 or 3 weeks. But we have I should add, we do have 4, I think 5 women crew, because the tour is contrary to what a lot of people have said recently. It's not a men's tour, it's an open tour, which is open to male and female skippers and crew. So some of the lighter teams who will be sailing with 5 up on the Far East 28 yachts this week instead of 4, as Ian's team is 4, there are 4 or 5 women sailing on the teams, which is good. It'll be interesting to see if the 4 or 5 crew setup is advantageous or not.
Okay, good. Well, congratulations. There's a lot of comments again. John Emmett is hoping he could do, I don't know if John's going to be there. Maybe he's also going to be there and could chip in some live commentary one of those days and stream it on Facebook. maybe when you get to the semis of the finals. Lily is there. What's Lily going to be doing with you there in Shenzhen? Do you know?
So the outside of the tour and the rankings and all of the other tour events we've had, we've also been working quite closely with the CYA, the China Yachting Association, and the Shenzhen Sailing Federation here about, they're keen to develop, sailing knowledge, talent across all aspects of the sport, but also including match racing. And one of our plans from last year was to introduce a China team to the event this year as a wildcard team, which we have done. There were going to be 2 teams, and at one point there was talk about Lily actually being involved in one of those teams, both from a training and sailing point of view. But for many reasons I won't bore you with here, we have one local Chinese team competing this week, skipper by the name of Sheng Shen, it's a bit of a tongue twister, who has a team being put together through a qualifying series that the China Yachting Association have done. So, they're putting a real effort into trying to not just promote sailing, but introduce match racing and other forms of sailing to the Chinese sailing people, which I think is great, and that's something I support.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Cool stuff. John Emmett says he will not be there this time. That's too bad. But speaking of Jeddah, we covered at some length the whole youth match racing world championship, which World Sailing put on last week in Jeddah, that Cole Tapper from Australia won. And the women's has just started up. Let me play this first video from that event, which yesterday's video, and then come back and get some comments from you, James, on that.
Mm-hmm.
Today we have 2 wins, which is not so bad for the first day. We are still some technical issue with the boat, but it's in the process to keep learning from this day to be ready for the other days. So we are confident for the rest of the regatta.
The Women's Match Racing World Championship.
Okay, so that is from Icarus Sports. That's the Women's Match Racing Championship going on now in Jeddah in the KSA, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You were just there, James, weren't you?
Yeah, I made a slightly flying visit. I had an opportunity to meet a group of individuals down there about potentially hosting a World Match Racing Tour and Women's World Match Racing Tour event in the future there, and details to follow on that. But some very really good conversations, and I'd never been before, so it was I was only there for 2 days earlier this week, and I have to say I was very impressed with the whole setup. They have a very impressive as they call JYC, which you saw in the video there, which I know Andrew knows well. So the academy, and it's a purpose-built academy building. It has a full gym, classrooms, storage, workshops. It's a very impressive setup. Clearly the marina there is still in its sort of growth phase. It's outside of the academy, and Andrew, you've been there more times than I have. They've got a very impressive yacht club, which is, looks like someone's put the Monaco Yacht Club and on the end of the marina. It's very impressive. It was a little quiet when I was there, but interestingly, when when the sun goes down, the place is buzzing. It's very busy there, and they put some real investment into the two match racing events this year. I helped them secure some of their boats. They have now a fully prepped fleet of Far East 28 boats. They've got 8 boats there, and they're keen to certainly promote and develop the local sailing talent. I know they had a Saudi team competing in both events, and that's a real priority, real focus for them at the moment. So I have to say, I've heard all sorts of comments about Jeddah and what they're doing in sport generally. In the short time that I was there, the people I met, I have to say I was extremely impressed, and I, for one, would look forward to going back there.
Andrew?
Yeah, when I started doing a sailing program there in Jeddah 2.5 years ago, we ran something for about 8 weeks, introducing Saudis to sailing. We had a thing from foiling wasps to moths to 69Fs, 3 Volvo Ocean Race yachts, and all manner of different things. And the hunger that there is locally for sailing is enormous. Until for the last 50 years, the sea has been either a way of keeping people in or keeping people out, and that's changed. In the process of changing, I think would be better to say, where people can see the benefits of leisure and sport on the water. So there's tremendous change going on. And I think that a lot of people who were suspicious about the AC event there were probably, most people I think were pleasantly surprised. One could say it's a brave move on the part of the Ocean Race to announce the finishing of the Ocean Race is going to be as part of this Red Sea Global sponsorship at Amala. But for the direction of travel appears to me to be entirely where people would wish it to be going. So good luck to them all.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me play another video. This is from today, from day 2 of that championship. Just a minute, and then we'll come back.
It's really nice to be here in Jeddah. It's a nice venue, really nice conditions. We are really happy to be here.
Today's racing was really good. It was tricky, there's a lot going on and all the other teams always keeping on your toes, but we had a good time, and yeah, I feel like we're warming up well into the back end of the regatta.
Okay, that I think that goes through James through Monday, right? Like the youth did, runs through the week.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
We'll cover the results of that on Tuesday. They're just getting underway today. I don't know what they're in the round robin phase, and I guess they go to a quarterfinal. How many teams do they have? Do you know, James?
Yeah, they it's rather disappointingly, they've only got 6. They had a full complement of 12 youth teams, but they've only got 6 women's teams, and so I think there was talk about doing 3 or 4 round robins at one point. So I'm not sure the exact format when I left, but I think it finishes on Sunday. And I should add, actually, looking at the video there, contrary to what we see in a lot of the Middle East with light air conditions, and even out here in China, the conditions there in Jeddah at the marina there were pretty spectacular. I mean, it was daily 10 to 15, like a light switch. It was a light in the morning, and so that lends itself well. And the yacht club is located right on the waterfront. I wasn't there for the America's Cup event. I talked to a lot of people about when the event was there. It's clearly a big show they put on, but from a spectating point of view, it's the water's very deep, right up to the shore side, so it's perfect for any type of sort of spectator sailing, and particularly for a World Match Racing Tour event.
Okay, well, gents, do you have anything else to say about this upcoming event in Shenzhen? Do we have the official name of Ian Williams' team now that it's being co-sponsored, jointly sponsored by Pindar and Gladstones?
Well, I'm hoping that I've got dominance over John. But we haven't compared.
What is this? Is this the fight? We used to have a fight with the boat behind. Excuse me for interrupting. We used to fight over who was going to be the name, whether it was BMW Oracle or Oracle BMW, and it went back and forth. So, what's the name of the sponsorship?
Well, before you decide what the final name is going to be, if both of you gentlemen could let me know at some point today, because the local organisers here were asking if you could keep it under 2 lines, that would be great, because they're trying to do posters, and so Pindar by Team Manuport together with Gladstones Long Beach USA might be a little long. So if we could keep it short, that would be great. Thank you very much. From the marketing department.
You know what Gordon Gekko said in Wall Street. You got to know when you can stand in the tall grass and with the big dogs. So this one's Andrew's, and I'm just glad to be the 5th Beatle. Hey, while we're here though, can I talk about, because Andrew sent an email before this interview, and it's a delight to be here and love all of you. But he asked that we wanted to talk about 2 things about how we promote keelboat match racing, and hopefully after the beam sailing, apparent wind sailing. But there are 2 things that this group could affect change in. The first one, I challenge James, let's race the Congressional Cup in Alameda Bay. It does not need to be a traditional windward lured race. I raced on the Swan River.
Hang on, John. Hang on. For the sake of our viewers, the Congressional Cup, which has been going on for what, 60? How many years?
Is this 60th anniversary next year?
Okay, so it's been going on, and it used to be raced right outside the breakwater. You'd come out of the cut and outside the breakwater in Long Beach. Then, how many years ago, James, it got moved down to the Veterans Memorial Pier?
Oh, pass. That's a John answer.
20 years ago?
I'd say 20 years ago.
20 years ago. It's been down, raced off the pier to the south. They're kind of really to the west, but the shore is not north-south at that point. But nonetheless, John, you're suggesting that it be raced in Alamitos Bay, that it be raced inside the bay. You don't even go outside, let alone outside the breakwater or down to the pier. You race it right in the bay, where there's a lot of very nice homes, including your own. Is that what you're suggesting?
We'd have 3, yes, absolutely. And we'd have 3 flights on the course at any one time. We'd ask some of the residents who have boats in front of their homes to shuttle around the corner. We'd put the other racing yachts and the teams in sort of holding pins, and then they'd come out of the blocks. We'd have one at the starting line, and it would be down in the channel, and one on the course and one at the top mark. And if they ran aground, great. I remember racing with Peter Eisler against Peter Gilmore, and Gilly and his team, we had them dead to rights, and they faked a dummy and they pretended that they ran aground, and they all lurched forward and we tacked away. And they kept going, and it was a beautiful head fake. They went on to win the regatta. We would have 5,000 people watching the race live, and it would be the source of, it would be the greatest match racing venue of all. The course would be completely skewed. It would be completely unconventional. It would be fun. It would be telegenic.
John, you put this to the Long Beach Yacht Club a couple years ago, and the founder whom I know well, came back and said, originally the club said, hey, we will run it inside. And then the founder of the Congressional Cup came back and said, no, I'd rather not.
It would reduce operating expenses exponentially. We would be a greener regatta. We wouldn't have 42,000 ribs chasing umpires. They could do it from the dock. They could do it from a drone. It would be an epic event. Now let's move on to the other idea.
No, hang on. Let's develop this a little bit. James, what do you think? I know it's not your call; it's Long Beach Yacht Club's call. But
yeah, I enjoyed many conversations with John about, and he knows I'm supportive of it as well. But I equally, it at the end of the day, the Congressional Cup is not our event from the tour. We're there in a long-term partnership, and it's not my call, and that's not. I'm not trying to sit on the fence with it, but it's been discussed many times in the club and by the various committees. There are all sorts of reasons. It's not necessarily negative reasons, operationally or otherwise, but I've seen some videos of it. I mean, I quite like the idea of maybe even for the 60th anniversary, there's an idea to try a sort of exhibition race of morning in there and just see how it flies. I mean, I think it'll be a slower burn than just changing the whole event on its head. But I agree.
Let's do a race inside as a trial and see how it goes, and see if people can warm up to it.
If we can put a race on in the bay here in Shenzhen, we can put a race on just about anywhere in the world. And so it's certainly not impossible. I've seen how it could work operationally or otherwise. I don't know, there's clearly some restrictions within the club. I don't know whether it's permits or otherwise, but that's a broader discussion. But I think it'd be a cool idea to certainly give it a try. I've said it every year. On the whole green thing with the use of ribs, I mean, I should just point out that we don't ship a single thing to any of our events around the world. The only thing that came with me to this event is a bag of flags and a mobile phone. So just we are,
No, I'm referring to the all the ribs that are running around the umpire boats.
Yeah.
Hey, Julia, what do you think?
Well, I think it'd be fun to see what happened.
I mean, you're from a yacht club that runs racing right off the breakwater, right out front here from St. Francis. And
absolutely.
James, the first time I met James, I think James was here at, what was the name of that regatta?
Allianz.
Yeah, you sent me some pictures this morning. Andrew, sorry I couldn't get that in. It was the Allianz Cup, or was it the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was the 2006 Allianz Cup as part of the tour, which we ran right off the front of the St. Francis. I mean, as we've known since the tour started, long before the Extreme Series, long before Sail GP, long before everyone else did it, the whole idea of spectator sailing was, back in the mid-late 90s, and there are 50,000 people in Marstrand at the Swedish Match Cup in the mid-90s. So, read recent articles about how we should all be doing it for the fans. Thank you for the comments. We've been doing it for 30 years, and some other people have slightly bigger budgets to do it with, but we know, yes, there is appeal for spectator sailing. And I think, when we're looking at venues now, and this is, and I was in Jeddah and here as well, finding these venues, and match racing lends itself perfectly for it, obviously with 12 to 15 minute races that can be close to shore. So I think it would be very cool to do something in Alamitos Bay, but I'm for fear of being told off by the powers that be at Long Beach Yacht Club. I'll better reserve
Don't
comments.
worry, I already got banned from the club on social media.
I know you're right.
I have a comment here. I have a comment here. Excuse me. It says, it's somebody called Bing Bong on YouTube. Bing Bong says, what Dad doesn't realize is all he has to do is become Commodore, which would be relatively easy. Who's Bing Bong, John?
Yes.
Anyway,
at least I still have a fan somewhere.
I know what there, John. There's a couple of things coming up next year. It's the joint 60th anniversary of the Congressional Cup, and it's the 25th anniversary of the World Match Racing Tour, the longest running pro series in the sport of sailing, I think that could be a good combination or good reason to maybe try something. But let's keep that discussion fluid for fear of getting into trouble from your.
Again.
All right. Well, while I've got you guys here, here's the other idea that I'd like to float, because you are people that could affect change in sailing. I'm a has-been, but as Dennis likes to say, it's better to be a has-been than a never was. The Olympics are coming.
Yes,
we've often struggled with ideas for how we could make a multi-medal opportunity for Olympic sailing athletes. There are certain restrictions that will not allow us to do bringing in any more athletes. The athlete count is a hard number. There are too much costs associated with it, so we can't expand it. But printing medals, that's easy. And operationally, running a race is fairly, once you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound, and you've already got all the infrastructure, you've got the umpires, you've got everyone there. So let's propose to World Sailing while you're there, and all the hoity-toity there, that we have a additional medal event that is a mixed gender, gender-neutral match racing event in heavy keelboats as an exhibition in Long Beach, LA 2028. At the second half of the games, all the medal events take place in the first half. We do an SSL style, flights of 4 or flights of 6 to get down to a single round robin. And we've got some boats that have proved their merit over the time. And we have an exhibition gold medal in match racing that athletes, either the captain or the coach will select the team, and we put it together and have a great event. It will be the most popular sailing event, and it might be one of the most telegenic events of the Olympic Games.
Andrew, what do you think, Andrew Pindar?
Well, I'm fully supportive. And when I dropped the note to John earlier on and talked about the promotion of match racing and keel boats and so on, I go back to that first event I went to in St. Moritz when there was deep water right to the edge of the lake. What a venue to see keel boats, match racing, sitting there in the bleachers right over the water. It got my imagination right from the get-go. I was there with Moose, Mike Sanderson. I think we were guests of UBS. I think James must have got us an invitation. And I was sitting with Peter Holmberg. And that's when I was watching this racing, and I was fascinated by it. It was the first time I'd seen match racing in that way. And of course, that was the time when I first spotted Ian Williams. But then when I looked to the venues I've been to around the world, Marstrand being a classic of the type, but Bermuda the same when you go to the Gold Cup there. Virtually all the match racing venues have been right there in front of your eyes, being able to see what's going on. And so for me, the discipline of match racing and the dial-ups and all the traditional side of it. And here I am, by the way, speaking as the vice president of the foiling organization. I mean, I love what boats are doing with foiling, but I think the space in the calendar for it all. Your thought, John, I don't know whether we'd get anywhere with World Sailing or the people who will vote on that, because it's not something we can. You can have the best idea, but who needs to be persuaded is a different question.
Well, the people that need to be persuaded are NBC Sports,
right.
and we have a mutual friend in the form of Stan Honey that can help affect that change.
Oh yeah.
Now you guys can work on the World Sailing side, and Stan Honey will work on the NBC Sports side as an exhibition. In the incremental change that James presented or about the Congressional Cup. I really think you could pull this off. It'd be a lot more interesting than team racing. It was the most popular event in Sydney and in Weymouth, and it would be biblical.
It would certainly be the closest to anyone watching, closest to shore. I mean, Harry Price famously took out the lamp on the end of the pier that right. Annually now they they have to put the exclusion marks.
Price point, they call that.
Price point. And if they're watching, I think Pricey's still paying off that lamppost.
Oh.
Hey, they have that lamppost. They took it away, didn't they? Get a hold of it and take it to Sydney or something?
Sadly now annually they put these exclusion markers that are 2 or 3 meters off the pier, which I've been trying to get rid of, but equally I'm not responsible for the insurance on the boats, and so there's but you know, my point being, you can stand on the end of Belmont Pier and you can practically, if not touch the sails as they come that close. And I think you go back to the spectating point of view, to be able to affect that in the Olympics and to be that close would be something I don't think, you know, it'll be the closest you'd ever see Olympic sailing in all the venues that I've seen. So I don't know how we do it. I know we've talked about it. There was a brief opportunity when they tried the offshore thing that the IOC turned down, and there was a rushed I think there was a rushed project to try and add the new medal, and they ended up with the kiteboarding or foil boarding, whatever it was.
Oh, yeah.
But at that point, we did put a pitch in for match racing. The problem was, as a team sport, there was going to be too many extra athletes, because it needed to be a minimum. For match racing, you'd need to do like a minimum of 3, like it was in 2012, and that was going to be too many. But the idea of having a second medal, like they do in, you know, swimming, where you can come away with a sort of Michael Phelps style 10 to 15 medals doing the same sport. Sailing, you can't do that. You've never been able to do that, and why not? You know, I'm all for it. I have no idea how we put it forward, but clearly there's some channels we could look at. So you got my vote.
Let's light the fuse. Just light the fuse and see what happens.
Well, maybe we've lit the fuse here. Hopefully we have. The way that match racing came in the first, I mean, I was along with Gerardo Seeliger and Henri van der Rat, and there was no, and it won't happen again this way, but we were sitting at the Royal Yacht Squadron in 88, right after the 87 Cup. This is in March of 88, and the late, great King Constantine said, hey, why don't we put match racing into the Olympics, 92. This is in 88. And you were the match racer. You're the America's Cup guy. I'm sitting at the table, and as are a couple of the other young Turks. And we passed a motion to put, at that meeting, without a submission, without any development, to put match racing into the 92 Olympics. And it passed unanimously. There was one, this was at the event, what's now called the Events Committee. It was the Class Policy and Organization Committee in those days. And it passed with only one abstention, and that was the mayor of East Berlin. Herbert Fechner was his name, and he didn't know what the hell we were talking about. He didn't know match racing from, you know, Adams off Ox. So I think it really requires that kind of initiative within world sailing, somebody to say at a senior level, not me, not any of the people sitting around the table. It takes one of the kings or the president or, as you say, NBC, John, to tell world sailing, we want another sailing medal. You guys use the same sailors, so you're not adding athletes to our minimum, and figure out how to do it, and do it in Long Beach where they do match racing since forever. And we'll do it. And Stan Reed can televise, Stan Honey can televise it, and it'll be fantastic. Let's do it. Let's make it. And let me go to the comments, because Clark Chapin says, I can't hit like or love enough. Alan Long, great idea. Stingray, maybe Pensacola and San Diego. Well, yeah, because Commodore Tom Pace is in here saying, we'll do it in Pensacola. Mm-hmm. And on and on and on. So that would be, I think there'd be no disagreement with that. Tom Pace, in fact, is saying, well, with streaming now, the function, as we saw, we're able to watch every division's races in France. The cost to get those races available to all have a minimal effect on the overall big budget of NBC. Light the fuse. Commodore Tom Pace, Pensacola Yacht Club. Mm-hmm. Clayton Embley, that in Savannah and Kentucky and wherever the hell else he is. By the way, his daughter, Julie, is not Ashley. His daughter is Savannah in the picture that I showed at the top of the show, so I apologize for that. This is a fantastic idea, Clayton says. John Sangmeister. Keel boats, match racing. I can see the sailors at my club making that a watch party. Hell, they'd go to Long Beach to watch it. The OCOG, John is...
And have a lobster at Gladstone's.
I knew there was a personal interest. The OCOG, the Organizing Committee Olympic Games, can propose an exhibition event. Yes, and remember, in the last time we had the Olympics in Long Beach, which was before any of you was born, that was except you, Julia, you and me, 1984, and we had not one but two windsurfer events. We had because the Europeans wanted to use wind gliders.
Annie Nelson.
And then we had a demonstration event for the California-born windsurfer, and it wasn't even in LA, it was up the coast somewhere, but you can do that. Alistair Murray, the match racing was easily the best event in 2012 at Weymouth, as John said, and everybody will tell you that the event right off in front of the Sydney Opera House was the best event, and I can tell you that even in 1992, when I was umpiring in Barcelona at the Olympics, we ran the match racing in the Solings right off the breakwater with those two apartment buildings, one of which was the athletes' village, and the athletes from the other sports came down, sat on the rock, sat on the breakwater, and watched what was going on, in part because His Royal Highness the Crown Prince was sailing, now King, was sailing in that event as well. So you got plenty of support here. And I don't see anybody disagree. If anybody disagrees with it, let us know. And what do you think, guys? Any final comments on that? Julia?
I think it's the lobster match cup, the LA 28 Olympics then. There you go.
Yeah.
Julia, you agree?
Yes,
I heard it here first.
Thinking that St. Francis shouldn't be ignored as a possible venue.
Well, it won't be here. It's going to be down there in SoCal.
Yeah.
You're going to do it in Long Beach, which for all the logistics reasons. But you might have the U.S. trials here. You might have them in Long Beach because that's you like to do it on home water.
Yeah.
Okay, Roger Lockhart, who's on, says that would be great, and on and on. Okay, anything else, gentlemen, for the good of the order before we press on here and hear from John Emmett with his regular report? I hope you can stay. If you got to go, we understand. We got holiday greetings here from at least one of our three panelists today, our Zoomers.
I have to sign off, but I want to wish everyone a very happy Christmas. Love to you all. And it was a delight to be here.
Great to have you here.
Did you resolve the name of the sponsorship?
Yes.
Yeah. Do we have a name yet?
We do. It's the one that was been publicised for the last week, James Pleasance.
Excellent. I'm very pleased you confirmed that because it happens to be all over about 5 skyscrapers here in Shenzhen. I was just joking earlier. I was more afraid that you were going to change the name on the call, and that would have caused me all sorts of problems. Speaking of which, I have to go and eat noodles for breakfast in about 5 minutes, so I may sign off too. But thank you for having me. Great fun as always.
Okay. Well, thanks to both of you. Andrew, do you have to dash as well? It's getting late.
I'm gonna hang around like something that won't leave.
Great.
Good. That's great. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
It's wonderful to have you here.
Nice to have you on, and we really appreciate it. Thank you. And there's I'll give one last comment here from Peter Stevenson, a.k.a. Pedro Foiling Sailor. He says, I am really enjoying the polite, professional, intelligent, he's getting a little carried away. It sounds like Magnus the Magnificent writing. Intelligent interaction between you all. More future sailing decisions should be made this way live.
That's probably right.
Julia. Thanks, guys. Thanks, John. Okay, we'll see you.
Take care.
And we'll keep Andrew around, and we'll get Andrew to comment here on John Emmett's coaching corner, which is coming up next year. Get to the front of the fleet with John Emmett, and here he is. He's down on the farm, I believe, today. Maybe not.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. And it's funny, as you get older, it does feel that these big occasions come just so quickly now as the years seem to accelerate. And one of the reasons for that is if you've had an experience before, it's less noticeable. So actually, ironically, the way to live a really long time is probably to have lots of very bad experiences that will stick out in your memory. And I think you do build resilience through adversity, because if your life is always the same, then actually it seems to pass very quickly. And I always think, in a way, it's fantastic to have these big occasions, your New Year, your Chinese New Year, your Valentine's Day, all the Easter, Christmas, all the rest of it. But it's a shame that actually you often only make a big effort when we get to a certain date on the calendar. And this is where it becomes important to see the difference between important and urgent, because we always tend to deal with urgent tasks first, like you have to do this by a deadline. But the really important things like friends and family, you may almost neglect them because although they're very important, there isn't that urgency. So I advise, as we come up to the holidays, if you sit down in your diary and really make the most of seeing the people who mean the most to you, because you don't know, what's just around the corner. And obviously this is a sailing show with a drinking problem, but the social aspect of lives in general is something which is so important. So already I'm really looking forward to Christmas. That's one of the times when I actually get to see most of the family all in the same place. So I always ask these questions: what are the Fosie doing for their Christmas? I remember Christmas 2011, I was sailing with Lily.
Yes.
Okay, he's obviously not down on the farm. He's walking the Weymouth Beach. I love his reports. I don't need a therapist when we've got John here. John Emmett. Get to the front of the fleet, his regular coaching corner contribution. You were going to say?
There's a comment here from John J. Hanfield. Hello, Tom and Julia. From Key West after my rescue and yacht sinking Wednesday.
Oh my, did Jess J. Hanfield saying that?
Yeah. Life is fleeting.
Life is fleeting. Well, John's, I think his attitude is exactly right? Andrew Pindar is still with us. Any reaction to John's report?
I agree with him. It's but I don't know how he manages to do it. I mean, every time he just comes out with pearls of wisdom, doesn't he?
He does.
What a great guy John Emmett is.
Well, and what's good is, I don't know if you've ever tried to do it, but Alistair Murray says, I've tried it, but just sitting in a chair and putting a camera up and doing it is a lot easier than walking around with a stick in your hand that's got a camera at the end of it, trying to keep that on you, not run into anything, not, and then sound, sensible. Yeah. It's a great skill that he's got, and we appreciate very much his regular reportage. Julia, do you know what happened on this day in history? It's the 6th of December, 1877.
Oh, 1877.
And there is your first clue. And without this, we wouldn't be here today, or some semblance of that. Do you know who that is? Do any of our... Roger Lockhart, while you're all thinking about
Marconi,
this.
is it?
It's not Marconi. Close. Sangmeister for king, at least for the prince of quite a lot. Roger Lockhart. Does Weymouth have more dogs than people? I'll tell you what, the Marina District does here in San Francisco, right? More dogs than people. Do you know who that is? Does anybody else?
Well, let's see.
Graham Sweeney's saying that John J., is that John Hanfield, was dismasted at night. His yacht was holed by the rigging. The first Finn, Morse, nope. Transatlantic Underwater Telegraph, nope. Robert Morse, HMV. Claire Harrington, Robert Morse, Graham Bell. Holtzman's close. Joe is the closest so far. Anybody else before we get it? He's got a great first name, Julia.
Oh.
He's got a great first name, and it ain't Julia. So what do you think his first name is?
Oh.
Thomas.
Oh, Thomas.
Thomas.
How could I
Thomas Edison.
Oh.
1847 to 1931. You knew that, right, Andrew?
Yeah.
I can tell you're really impressed. So what did he do on this date? Well, Thomas Edison was one of the great inventors and designers, as you all know, in the history of the world. He invented the first practical light bulb, the motion picture camera, and the phonograph. Others had attempted to invent the latter, but Edison's was the first to actually reproduce the sound. The phonograph was Edison's first major invention and the one that earned him the moniker the Wizard of Menlo Park. He was out here in Menlo Park.
No.
Yes. You think that's Menlo Park, New York?
Uh-huh.
I think you're right. As the invention was so unexpected by the public as to appear magical, his first invention recorded on tin foil around a grooved cylinder, and although the recordings could only be played a few times due to low quality, Edison's reputation was cemented. And here's a little more on what happened on this day in history. In December of 1877, a young man came into the office of the Scientific American. That magazine's been around a long time, and placed before the editors a small, simple machine about which very few preliminary remarks were. It sounds like Elon Musk, right? Mm-hmm. The visitor, without any ceremony whatever, turned the crank, and to the astonishment of all present, the machine said, quote, "Good morning, how do you do? How do you like the phonograph?" Unquote. The machine thus spoke for itself and made known the fact that it was the phonograph. Edison, by the way, did not improve on his design, but the reason I gave what did I give to Joe Holtzman? Well, he at least got Alexander Graham Bell.
Oh, yeah.
We gave him a consolation award, because Alexander Graham Bell invented a much improved version using wax cylinders the following year. Okay, that's what happened this day in history, Julio. That's about it for us. We've got one more segment here, and I think our remaining panelists will really enjoy this. This is the last leg to Gloucester. And this Alistair Murray sent me because it is happening the 6th through the 9th of December in Sydney. It's one of the biggest dinghy regattas in the world each year now. It's called Sail Sydney. It will return to the waters of Rose Bay and Botany Bay in New South Wales from today, actually, with more than 230 boats set to take part from the 6th to the 9th December 2024, this long weekend down under. Sail Sydney is one of Australia's premier and invited class regattas and is also a world sailing graded event. It is run each year in December, attracting competitors from around the country and beyond to the beautiful waters of Sydney Harbor. Andrew, I think you would agree with all of that and more.
Absolutely would do.
Okay, Julio.
I just don't want to forget Jay Hanfield and his rescue.
Well, I don't know any more about it than what we've seen in the comments.
I know. I don't
And
either.
if anyone else has, Alan Long says, here's a more important than, I'm glad Jay's okay. Well, we're out of bourbon cream, gotta go. See you all on Tuesday. If I were drinking alcohol, Julia, I would drink some bourbon cream with you, because I know I did taste it in the coffee. How was it?
It's really good. I've been savoring it. I still have a little bit left.
And did you see what Pindar's been drinking? Show him what you've been drinking. He waits till he's off camera.
Oh, wine.
No, he's not drinking wine.
Oh, no, it's not. It's here somewhere. There you
He's
go.
been drinking Perrier or San Pellegrino.
Mm-hmm.
Fizzy water. Does fizzy water, how do I put this delicately? Does fizzy water make you gassy?
No.
No.
It doesn't make you gassy, Julia?
No.
Makes me gassy.
I need fizzy water to make you gassy.
Andrew, what do I do?
I think you give up.
My
You give up and go
co-host.
to bed.
My co-host. Oh, yeah, Rick Banner, close, but he didn't get a cigar. Yeah, Joe Holtzman was close. That was good.
Yes.
Okay, well, I think we've got through this show. We get to the D block here, Julia. We do have a couple of funnies. As you saw, I've been decorating the show up because of being in the John Sangmeister spirit of Christmas, and the others of you who have made such, including John Emmett. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot for today. And speaking of a drinking show with a sailing habit, tequila is made from cactus. Cactus is a vegetable. Tequila
Oh, of course.
is a salad, right?
Yeah.
Ed Worley sent that in. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Ed. I needed that.
And they go downhill from there. Only 1 in 4 men are actually happy. Somebody's obviously pasted a picture of somebody at the wheel down in the lower right corner. That came from Clayton Allen Embley. Thank you, Clayton, as well as the booze that you sent. And the non-booze. I mean, he sent,
yes,
for me, I guess,
know.
some root beer. How nice is that? It's like the ginger beer we got from Bermuda, from Andy Cox and Co. there in Bermuda, along with the Gosling's rum. And Fritz Mueller, I think I mentioned at the top of the show, Fritz sent us a contribution in the U.S. Postal Mail.
Yes.
Nice one. I won't say the amount, but we appreciate it, Fritz, very much indeed. Fritz in Miami.
And the yacht club will appreciate it.
The Beach Street Yacht Club?
Yes.
Why? The Beach Street Yacht Club doesn't get any of that money. It goes to Sailing Illustrated and goes to keep our studio on the air and from going, like that, and getting the... Okay, we got another one here. That's the typical fisherman. That's got to be a good 12 inches. And she says...
That explains a few things.
That's clean, isn't it? I mean,
yes.
That's okay. That came from Ryman. You would expect that came from Ryman. But to wrap up here, in the spirit of Christmas, Julia, I've got this one also from Ted. When you want to have nice Christmas decorations but can't afford it, you just put up, man, my power bill, which is not that high, but it goes up. It's something else I got to spend because when we turn the studio lights on, and especially with the work I was doing in the studio this week, my power bill will have gone up, the streaming bill and so on. I'm not complaining because it's still nothing like your power bill. Which is outrageous.
There's a thing that came in the mail today. I should show you about that.
I got a copy of it as well.
Did you?
Yeah. They're doing work. Our electric company's doing work right around the corner here next week.
No, it's somebody's going to let you have power for 8% of what we're spending now.
Julie, you get those things. They're all scams. In any event, when you want to have nice Christmas decorations but can't afford it, maybe we got to check into that, whatever that is that came in the mail. We get cheap electricity. How about a small nuclear reactor?
Yeah.
Here at the Beach Street Yacht Club.
MSR, yeah.
We could be glowing from our armpits when we do the show.
No, but in a minute we can have one of our own that's computer size.
Okay, you get us you do that as my landlady. You get us a nuclear, a little home-based nuclear reactor, and we won't have to pay our power bills.
Yeah.
What a good idea. We will be glowing from our armpits.
I've invested in the company that's making them.
You have?
I have. About an hour ago, about a year ago. So.
Stingray says, gas is illustrated now. I think we're nuclear waste illustrated. Cheers and thank you, everyone. Another classy show. Well, I wouldn't get carried away.
No.
But it was a great one. It was great to have the Zoomers with us. Final comment, now that we're at the finish line, final comment to our remaining Zoomer, Andrew Pindar.
Yes.
Well, I should say something about sail safe and all the rest of it, but no, what I really mean to say is I hope Ian William has a brilliant regatta in Shenzhen and comes away with an 8th victory.
Yes, we'll work on that.
Well, did you reveal the name of the sponsorship?
Yeah, Pindar by Maniport Logistics. James was teasing. He's had that for ages, so he was just being mischievous.
How does Gladstones get worked into that?
Oh, they've got great appearance on their shirts. We agreed that. We worked on that to make sure that Gladstones has got prominent display on the shirts.
Good for you. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
It's lovely to have you here.
We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks, Tom.
When Graham Sweeney saying Merry Christmas, when do we see you in person? Are you coming to Congressional Cup?
That's what John told me earlier.
Good. Well, we'll all go to Gladstone's for a bite to eat and more.
Perfect.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks very much. Julia, that about wraps it up for us. We're to the finish line, and you get to say...
Don't miss this grand opportunity to like, follow, and share.
Do you like my decorations on these slides?
I do.
It makes it a little more Christmassy or a little more in the holiday spirit. Comments are welcome, even in replay. If you're watching in replay, as many people do, we leave the comments open because our prime directive, our tenet, which is self-enforcing. Now, all the FOSI help FOSI. Yeah. No name calling, no personal attacks, no coarse, COARSE.
Yes.
No coarse language, right?
Mm-hmm.
which we don't do on here. We appreciate it very much. We also appreciate all of you who give us $1 or $2 or more per month. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, or you can send it in the mail, or I'm going to stop talking about this. I'm going to suspend this discussion through the end of the year. We'll just put the slide up. Thank everybody, but we're not going to. I get so tired of hearing it on the tube. You watch it up here and it's over. Thank you. Thanks for your support. We appreciate it, all of you, very much indeed. We also appreciate those of you who let us have what? Shiza, stuff, media, pictures, and audio, sound, all three for the show, including all of these fine people and organizations. Julia, final thought.
I think today's program was particularly good because of the discussions around. And as somebody said, it's too bad all decisions can't be made that way.
They used to be.
Yeah.
They used to be. In this country, yacht racing used to be run, as Claire Harrington and I have had long discussions, basically by people would gather at the New York Yacht Club and have a nice dinner and have a few drinks and have a coffee in the morning and then sit down and have a lively discussion for several days and come away. And everybody go home to their yacht clubs and say, this is what we decided. Then they'd come back and say, well, that worked at our yacht club, but this didn't work at our club. And they'd meet once or twice a year and do just that.
Yeah.
It was smart people from all walks of life. And that's part of what makes this show so good, because we got rich people like you, you got poor people like me, and smart people like Pindar, Sangmeister, Pleasance, and the rest.
No, all three of them have just do.
Speaking, go ahead.
No, just do incredible jobs for sailing.
The world has fewer people who can make things happen, Sweeney says. Is sandpaper a coarse word? No, but shiza is. That's my good substitute word. And by the way, speaking of smart people, guess who we have coming?
Oh, yes.
Next Friday, not next Tuesday, but next Friday, we have Mr. Dr. Hamish Ross is coming on, and we're going to talk about the America's Cup. We're going to talk about the deed of gift, and he's got some hot tips about the America's Cup.
Great.
And we shall look forward to it. We'll talk about maybe also what's going to happen in Auckland next month, which is Sail GP. I think Hamish is full of good information.
Lovely.
As usual. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have a great weekend wherever in the world you are, and that you'll join us next Tuesday. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.